Okay. So again, I think I can reach out to them, find out what the timelines are going to be and when we need to make that notification and find out who our contact is for that ARPA funding. That's all going to be,
So we can utilize the ARPA funding on equipment for the trash too, right?
that's something I'm going to have to reach out and find out, because if we have specific questions, I don't know. I wasn't the contact at all for it, but I do know where to find that contact at, because I still do receive Jessica's emails. And I'm going to have to get those transferred over so that those emails and those contacts are moved over, and we can start the process of making all those contacts with our new economic development.
So is our ground monitoring going to affect us installing our tipping floor or getting a?
Not that I'm aware of. From what I've been told, both have been working together to try to keep those two projects from interfering with one another.
And the same with the cell expansion, it's not going to interfere with the groundwater or the tipping floor?
With the what?
The groundwater monitoring or the tipping floor?
Should not. Okay, the next thing I had is the park. Several things going on down there. We've got the lagoons. Kira is working on the background paperwork that we're going to have to complete and store for future audits, for the work we've done on the lagoons. The last thing to protect the lagoons and the work that we've done is planting erosion control or grass seed around all of the fresh dirt work up around that area, and then covering it until spring so the erosion control can allow time for the grass to take seed. I do not have a number on that, but I would imagine the number is going to be low enough that when it comes in, I'll just approve it. I could not imagine it's going to be that high for grass seed.
So with the upgrade of our lagoons, is that going to mean our prices for our like RV and permanent people, is it going to go up for their sewer? The pricing going to go up per year or per week or however we do it?
We're going to have to look at not only the price increase for those sites, but where that money goes and how it gets stored for the future as to whether or not we develop a lagoon fund that 10 years from now should be able to fund at least 1/3 of those cells being dredged.
So who's working on that? Who's in charge of that?
At the end of the year, each department head brings in a list of what they want for price adjustments. And when those price adjustments are brought in, I'll work with David as to how we move capital money over to put it away for future projects. I would imagine it's simply going to be put into a capital outlay.
But with our software, where are we at on that?
It is with the vendor, and the vendor, we are waiting for the vendor to tell us that they've got everything loaded that we sent to them for measurements. Once they have everything loaded, we'll be ready to pick a date to go live with, and we'll work with IT to switch over from one program to the other.
They haven't given us a date. Aren't we already paying for the software? Haven't we already entered into a contract with them and everything?
I'll check to see, but I don't know that we've paid for the software that we haven't installed yet. But I will check to see, and I'll get a date this week as to when they project our go live date will be, or at least get a timeline from them when they believe they can get all this loaded up and ready to go. It shouldn't be that long to enter in the data that we gave them. I mean, it wasn't complicated.
And we've been talking about it for what, 3 months? Still ain't got nothing?
Let me get a timeline from them and find out
That's
when.
why I was asking about the price adjustments. So if we're going to go live with this, if we should do the,
We should do a price adjustment on it and fees for planning and zoning for solid waste. We should be doing those probably a deadline, David, is it mid-December or so?
Yeah, because we'd want to have it done and in effect for the first of the year.
so should we bring in each department and sit down here with them and go into detail on what we need to do?
I can have those departments that do charge fees, review those fees and make their recommendations and have them here. What would be a mid-December meeting, David?
Give me just a second.
On our Airbnb out there, how do we do that?
15, 16. 16? In December. Okay. Sorry, you had a question?
How do we do our, so if somebody rents an Airbnb after hours, how do we deal with that out there? Do you know?
Rents it after hours for the same evening?
Just anytime. So I've had a few people call me or I've referred them out there, but they say they're closed or they can't get a hold of anybody or they don't know how to do the reservation because they can't get into the deal or into the cabin because we're closed at the marina. How does that work?
Well, if the
Do they-
marina, if the marina's closed and they have Airbnb opportunities in cabin 7, and I think, is it cabin 7 or 7-6 and another one? If there's opportunities for Airbnb in those cabins, then once they sign up for them, I don't believe they could sign up the same evening and show the same evening unless staff was available to meet them there and open up those facilities.
We'll see. And that's not normal for Airbnb. I mean, typically you don't ever meet anybody there. How come we don't have like digital like door locks where they get a code and entry directions on how to get into their Airbnb? I think we're limiting ourselves hardcore out there.
Well, I know Sherry spoke about door locks and codes, but how about on the 16th when she does that, I ask her to brief on that as well and tell us what's going on and what her plans, because she spoke about door locks for all the cabins.
I don't see why all of them are on Airbnb and we don't have, somebody cleaning them every day if that's what needs to happen and have them ready for the evening so people can just,
Well, and with them being on Wi-Fi now, you can change those codes. The locks can be changed online. So the codes and things can be changed on them, and the availability of those certain type of lock systems you're talking about are now, with the Wi-Fi being there, are now available.
yes, I think we're losing out on a lot of opportunity there with the cabins. So I think we only have 2 of them on Airbnb or 1.
One that I know of, and then up to 3, I think. But you're asking me to guess at things again. I know cabin 7 is on Airbnb, and I believed at one time we had more than cabin 7 on there.
I just think we're making it a little hard on ourselves. I think we can connect with the Airbnb calendar. We can adjust it. They adjust prices for the demand, and we put entry locks on it, and we have entry directions, and we don't do anything besides just clean them every day. So I think I believe we're losing out on a lot of opportunity there.
Okay, also, when she comes in, we're looking at the new dock or the boat slip. She's got volunteers to pull this thing out and put this thing in. So the cost of putting it in, or pulling it out and putting it in, is the parts alone. That parts cost is $53.03. Now, you can wait for her to come in and explain this, or we can go ahead and make an order for those parts and have those on the ground when she explains it, and have those volunteers start pulling out that old dock section or boat slip and putting the new one in. But the weather's going to be prohibitive at some point during the year, and we're going to end up not being able to complete the project if we don't get it started rather rapidly.
Jim?
I gotta wait till Jason gets back so we can talk about it. All three of us decide what we're gonna do. It's $5,300 more than what it was supposed to cost.
I agree.
You want that scheduled when she comes in to speak about the pricing and everything? Okay. The next thing I had for you was I needed 5 minutes non-elected personnel with you and myself. And then I needed another 5 minutes. Probably that one may take up to 10 minutes, non-elected personnel with myself and our new economic development. So a total of 15 minutes, and 10 of that being with our new our economic development.
I got some questions too. We talked a few weeks ago about the road and market line and the chip and seal roads. Have we got any bid back on that yet?
Talked about which road?
Putting lines on the chip and seal roads, and you're gonna get with us just for the center line?
Oh, you're talking about straight line striping and a cost per foot on chip and seal roads. No, I do not have that bid. I'll check on it this week,
You
and
told us a few weeks ago that you'd have that.
that should have been a easy one to get, and I apologize. I believe that fell through the cracks as I had other things going on.
And then I was at the trash compactor Saturday, and he said that the button's been broke down there for weeks. There's been a trouble report written on it, and nobody's fixed it at Mound City.
Yes.
Why haven't we fixed it? He tells me it's been weeks since it's been there.
My understanding is the electrician looked at it and it was a fuse issue and has been repaired.
It hadn't had, as of Saturday, it had not.
My understanding is from talking to the operator that and maintenance, that the electrician determined it was a fuse issue and that it was repaired or being repaired. I'll look into it.
He just told me Saturday's all I was going by is down there, and he had to go into the building to fix it. He said it'd been weeks since it'd been looked at.
I'll go down and have a chat with them and find out why, because I was told it was pretty simple repair, that it was a fuse that stopped that whole process.
Is there a tree limb over here in the courthouse also that's the trouble report or work order's been put out on and has not been cleaned up?
Tree limb?
Or tree, I don't know, somebody told me there was a limbs down.
I see limbs down, and I know there's limbs in the back. There's also 2 stumps that I've had prices to have ground out that haven't been taken care of yet as well.
Is the removal of the tree limbs and wood, whatever, branches, is it something our maintenance guys can do?
Yes.
Has there been a trouble or a work order on that for weeks or not?
I can't tell you whether there's a order on it or whether or not there was one. I'll have to look to find out.
Oh, you got?
That's all I got.
We talked about the Parker Senior Center here a while back, and Chris had to pull some stuff off of it. Where are we at on that now? Is the city going to take over or what?
The last thing I knew, I'd ask you as far as a commission to tell me who I needed to contact legally, or who you were going to contact to turn the building over to them, to draw up a contract for it. The concern was voting, and that a contract be given on a long-term lease with the agreement that we had access for voting. And as long as you agree who to contact and have write that lease up or that agreement, then we should be good.
We just wanted Bert or Mark, or how do you want to do that? It sounds like Mark's doing a little bit for us still, so is that something we should reach out to him and see if he's willing to review it?
Can we reach out to the city and see what the voting, David, do you use things like that? I mean, where we don't own the building, other places? Or
Yeah.
we just need an agreement with them that,
Yeah, I've got several, probably about, well, over half the places I use are not county owned, and we typically pay rent. But if we're just leasing it and have an agreement, then probably just use it.
just use it where they're giving them to them or whatever we do with
Yeah,
the building.
we write that in,
It's
that
the
we still
agreement.
have
We
that.
get to use it for
So-
voting.
Typical, or just a typical agreement with understanding that we'll use it for voting
Mm-hmm.
at no cost to us.
Yes.
You good with reaching out and have him reach out to Mark and see if he,
Are you good with that?
I'm good with reaching out to him. He's going to want to reach out to David and get dates and some information about the voting and stuff, but I'll reach out to him this week.
And then, what's the status on the boiler?
They got it up and running with the parts that we were able to order in our emergency meeting.
Did you find anything on the back warranty on the,
No, I did not.
is that something we can look through the meeting minutes, David, and try to find
Find what?
the old repairs on the boiler?
I don't know if we'd find it in the meeting minutes. We'd probably have to look at old invoices.
I mean, I don't know what we need to do, but I know we spent a lot of money on it when I first got here too, and that's why I've always been so questioning about it. So I just want to be sure that we're not replacing parts and pieces that we just
Have already replaced and should be under warranty.
Yeah.
And from what I'm finding, that's not the case, but I'm also finding that we may have switched from one company to another in the time frame that you're looking at, which would void any warranty from the original company when the second company took it apart. I also reached out to Wildlife and Parks on the Queens Road project, but haven't heard back. I'm trying to develop a contact at the state to bring in, have that discussion, but I haven't heard back yet.
I mean, it's pretty typical we don't get an answer unless we try to move forward, correct? I mean, is that fair to say?
I'm
We
sorry.
don't ever get an answer back from things like that unless we try to move forward, right?
Typically, when we try to take the first step, I mean, if we're talking about it, nobody wants to have the discussion. But I have been told by the wildlife parks, the local reps, that they would be more responsive in our emails. So I'm hoping this week that I hear from them that it is hunting season. It is tough. for them. So I'm hoping that sometime this week I hear back from him and he gives me a contact at the state level that we can have a discussion with. But if not, then I will make more aggressive attempts to reach out.
We have that service maintenance agreement with, what's his name? From Parker? Weber, yeah, with Weber.
Yes, are you talking about the HVAC? Yes.
Is he going around turning all our HVACs on, making sure we're good for coming winter, or how are we doing that?
He's gone through and given us a service of those units and an evaluation of those units, which units are in need of repair or replacement in the next several years. I believe I sent that over.
Yeah, I remember that.
But-
Are we doing anything to make sure we're not in dire need of hurrying up and getting a furnace replaced, in the middle of the week? I mean, are we checking all that stuff, or how do we do that?
He's servicing them still, but the units that he identified, we're going to have to come up with the money in the building fund to replace. That is the plan, that we continue to service what we've got until we come up with the money in the building fund and determine how many of those we replace a year.
So,
And that's something that we just need to sit down and look at the building fund and say, do we do 3 a year? Do we do the whole thing in one shot? And I can't tell you what money's available there.
I guess what I'm asking is, should we send out an email to everybody and all the county employees, tell them to start their furnaces and make sure everything's running good? Because I know last year you and I, there was times we went out, in the evenings and had to have Weber or Steve come out, and it's cost more money. So that's what I'm asking, is we just need to verify that everything's running smoothly. And
I can send out an email to our maintenance staff and have them, while we're in this intermediate time, and go out and light all those
Okay. That's all.
and check them. I mean, it'd probably be a good time to check the CO2 alarms in those facilities if we're going to light them at the same time, change out the batteries.
I don't think I have anything else.
I've, at this point, still got 44,000 in special building contractual, about close to 10,000 in commodities, and 73,500 in capital outlay that could be used this year out of this budget. So there's money in special building to do some work if we need something done.
Should we do, I don't know, after meeting workshop to come up with a plan on that, to allocate those funds before the end of the year, or do we need to do that, David?
Whatever you guys want to do. I mean, it's there, so.
Jim, what do you think?
We're looking at some of them that need it the worst and replace something
Yeah,
on our list if we have money.
Well, that's, the next question would be, do you want Mr. Weber in the room to tell you what's worse and because some of the units, like the old district court, if you're going to do one unit, don't do one, do 2 or 3, because you got to lift them up with a crane. So the cost is, you don't want to mobilize a crane multiple times for that. So there's going to be some common sense things in it that he may know to tell you that will save us some money. But if you want him available for that, I can schedule that and have him come in, bring the numbers in, and we can sit down and have a talk.
I mean, I think that'd be beneficial. I don't want to wait till everything breaks, because then that just defeats the purpose of having this maintenance deal with him, so.
So
Okay.
here's grand total of that special building fund. The budget for the year is 155,000, and we have almost 125 left.
Okay. Commissioners, that's all I had for you, other than executive session.
We're gonna, if you want, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment, and then we'll have this session. All right, at this time, we're gonna open it up for public comment. If anybody has anything they'd like to say, come up, state your name and your comment at the podium, and go from there. No public comment? All right. Well, then we're going to go back in executive session with Sean for 5 minutes for non-elected personnel, and then another 10 minutes with Sean and Chastity for non-elected for a total of 15 minutes. And what we'll have to do is we're rearranging our office spaces here, so we have to do executive session in here. Or I guess we could do it in Sean's office if you want. Yeah, we won't let you guys step out. So that's my motion.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved, second, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
So that'll be until 10:50.
Back at 10:50.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Okay.
I think last I knew, Jason was on the Stars.
Yeah, Jason took it over temporarily from Stars.
So then we would be replacing him, I assume.
Yeah. I don't need a name alternate for that, right? No. Are we good to go? All right. We did have some action from executive session. We need to appoint Chastity Ware, our new economic development director, to the Regional Planning Commission and move Sean to be our alternate. And then make her put her on the STARS program, and Jason was doing it temporary, so we'll remove him and put Chastity on the STARS board too. That's my motion.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Resignation.
Oh yeah, what was his name, Sean?
John Wachesky, part-timer at the county park, who's worked with us for 3 years and would like to thank him for his service and accept his resignation.
I'll make that motion that we accept John's resignation and thank you for your service, and hope all goes well for you.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
These just came in. Those are 2024 bridge report. We have copies and we'll be putting everything back in our bridge files. They are important to us because of the FEMA work we're doing and the reporting that has to go along with the documentation on the recovery of the money for the damages for the spring flood.
We will hold off on this till we find out about that desk if she needs it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
She was gonna go look at it.
I think she said she was going to. Yeah.
And that, until we have the compactor discussion, is all I had for you.
Sean, did they inspect that archway bridge out on Unganara Road on Old 69 out past the racetrack?
All of them would have been inspected. It's just the number and or location we'd have to locate. Would you like me to find the OS number on it so we can pull it up?
I'm just curious about it because I know it's in the National Registry, and I just wanted to.
Let me go get the number off of it.
Jim, do you have anything? The only thing I had on my notes was talk about going back to the evening meetings, but we want to wait until Jason gets here to make that decision.
He's also gonna talk about that billing with Wilson, but I think Jason needs to be here for it too. So,
Well, you want to just take a 5-minute recess until 11 when we do this?
that's fine.
I'll make a motion. We take a 5-minute recess until 11 o'clock.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Sorry if we were taking that in the board meeting, but it's probably wore him out, so he didn't show up.
Hard on him, was you?
I didn't think we were that bad to him.
lay perspective, unless we have the engineers tell us that, I don't think that's supporting damage from the flood to the bridge structure itself.
What about a culvert inspection?
They're completely being entered into the system, and Jesse's going through to look at which ones need ordered, put on the list first.
What kind of project, price wise,
Be substantial.
so is that gonna be, that gonna fall in there?
Is any of that going to be covered by FEMA? Yes, parts of it. Not all of it will be, but the parts that were damaged by the flood, parts that were damaged or done before then, well,
We've never done an inspection of the creek.
no, we've done an inspection. It was done by,
Sinkholes happen. That's just my concern. I just feel like we're losing. We can talk about it later, but
there was a set of inspections done. But as to whether or not we put them in for mitigation or we put them in for damage, their money can be recovered on both sides. It just depends on how much money and what percentages. And we're gonna try to get the largest percentage, but in some cases, if it was damaged prior to the flood, we're not gonna get that back.
all right, John, I think we're,
We've got several questions. Some of the questions that I see and have seen have to do with,
was everybody here? We're waiting on, Pleasanton's not gonna make it.
I'm sorry.
Pleasanton's not gonna be here.
Yeah, and I don't see Jody.
Lacey's not here. Blue Mound and Tanglewood.
Tango's here. Blue Mound.
Let's start from the beginning, just so people on the camera know what we're talking about. We're having this meeting, so the last time we had a contract on any of the trash compactors within the county was in 1986, and we're just trying to figure all this out. We've had a lot of people come over the few years that I've been here, people wanting to change locations, things like that, and this is kind of going to help address that and what we think is best for the county. You want to, and then you can take from there, Sean, kind of what we're going to be doing.
Well, the overall concern for the county in this one is to have current agreements. Have something that's not 20 years old, and that is current and germane to what we're doing daily, and has some impact on it. The other thing is that on each one of our sites, with the county holding the main license in Prescott at our main facility, and then each one of the other license being held by the county at each one of the other locations, whether it be a city or an HOA, as far as licensing, it doesn't affect anyone but the county. But what happens is we have employees at each one of those locations that are city or HOA. Some of the HOAs or most of the HOAs do not have full-time employees or employees at those sites, so they're unmanned sites. The cities have employees that are responsible to them at those sites. And when we have complaints from inspections that the site is developing trash at it, or that we're collecting rubbish or refuse for the purpose of recycling or maintaining or keeping it other than what's on the license, that becomes a problem for the county. And then it becomes a problem because the county has no control over an employee that's not theirs.
So the only thing we do is pick up the dumpsters, right?
Yes. So My suggestion in this process was have buy-in from both parties where the cities were on the license as well. That has caused some concern with some of the cities, and I think Russell can address a lot of this from his military background, because anytime you read KDHE or an environmental document, it's going to tell you that every drop of oil that hits the ground there, that somebody's responsible for. You know, most of their documents are going to tell you the worst case scenario. I can tell you since I've been here, we've had small violations about needing to pick up trash, needing to cut grass, needing to do little things, but we have never had a violation which caused us to get fined or a violation that's caused us concern with OSHA or KDHE. But is that still a possibility? Could you bust a hydraulic hose and it spew hydraulic all over the ground all over for a weekend? Yeah, that could happen. Could you have someone throw something inside the container in a bucket and it gets smashed and leaked out through the container system and from the box and be a carcinogen or an acid and then need cleanup? You very well could. I mean, but you could have that happen today with the county being the lead on the license and the only one on the license, and it being ground that the city and the county have an agreement on as well. I don't know that it creates more responsibility, and what the state has asked us to do is to put the city or the HOA first on the license and to put the county second on the license. That way the city or the HOA has control over the site. They can work with them on the site. They can talk to them about your operator can't set up containers. Your operator can't set up their own collection of things to give out or to hand out to people, that if it doesn't fit in this container, this container, this container, it doesn't stay on the site. Then the cities and the HOAs can work with their people and work on just what violations are common. If there is a violation above and beyond that, that there is a violation as far as a chemical substance, an issue of any kind, that is, I believe, why the state wants us to maintain on the license, because we are the one that comes up with the operational plan. We pay Lake Region, and as part of our dues for Lake Region comes up with the operational plan that allows us to submit to the state and get these licenses. So each one of these entities is not responsible for their own operational plan. They are responsible for giving us the details that Lake Region would type in and submit to the state to make sure it's accurate. But then over the years, I've been called by different sites and they'll ask me, can I take this? Can I take mattresses? Can I take different oils, tires, anything at the site? And I refer them and I tell them, look at your operations manual and your permit. It's on the back wall of the building that you're in. It should be in a file box. And because of turnover, both at the city and or HOAs, not only did the operator at the site, but the people that trained the operator and the administrators that took over the programs were unaware that those things were even in the building. In some cases, they may have been cleaned out of the building by other staff members that didn't even know what they were. So we needed to do a better job ourselves of making sure we went back around each year, and when they got updated, made sure there's a fresh copy in the building, because it should be there for inspection purposes. My recommendation is to hear out the concerns of these cities and these HOAs, try to work with them as best as possible. But for my portion of this, I would like each and every one of you to understand the intention behind this is not to dump financial burden or liability from a hazard onto a city or an HOA. The purpose is to give the HOA and or the city the means to do things and control employees at their site that we do not have. Mound City recently changed the hours of operation at their site. In the past, they had to ask our permission because we're the licensee holder to change it. Then I had to call the state. I had to get permission to change it, fill out a little bit of paperwork, and then go down and change the sign. When in fact, if they were the licensee holder, I would have never been notified of anything other than, hey, please change the number on the county website for what time their operations are open, because we made a decision about our site because we have control of our site. Where they're not feeling like they're having to go through us to get something or to control something that should quite honestly be theirs
And
to
there's
manage.
going to be no, I mean, we're going to pay for,
We're going to pay for the license. We're going to provide the cost is in this operational plan. We're going to pay for that through Lake Region, and we're going to pay for the license. And on the first round of the application, the license, I would go to each one of these entities, reach out to them and show them how to put the license application together and ship it into the state to make sure they had somebody that was capable and knew what they needed to do. But this is, along with some of these entities already having lagoons and animal shelters and other things, this is no more complicated than any of the state permitting that they already do.
and we will continue, we will provide the equipment, the crushing equipment and the dumpsters and hauling the dumpsters off each time they're full.
Correct.
I mean,
They're gonna be responsible for their buildings and
their buildings and their operation
where
of,
the location of it.
yeah, we'll allow them to do whatever they want on their location and
We'll have the compactor, the containers.
yeah,
Now, we have one building on each one of those sites.
which I believe we should turn that over to them to allow them to do whatever they want. If they want to remodel it, cool. If they, like Pleasant, they did away with the building we had there and they bought a new one. I think should be up to them.
They put in two buildings, one to run the operation out of, the other to have the mechanism because of the noise.
We got the HOAs that just have
They basically have a standalone button outside of it, and it's an open up area.
I don't think we need to build a dwelling around.
No, they actually have at Tanglewood, it's just a small like dog box. That the mechanism is down below. And you've got a remote similar to Mountain Cities that's up by the chute at the unit that you can operate.
So, I mean, I think if they want to change it or rearrange it, that's up to them. And
I think the biggest one that wants change is Pleasanton, because there's concern at the county park. And there is a location that Jessica identified that might be suitable for that in an industrial park area right off the main roadway. But it would take a little bit of engineering and it'd take a little bit of cost estimation as far as moving power to that site, to set that site up and to find out what it would cost them. And the question for them is going to be, why do we object to them moving? Let's get this straight. I don't object to anybody putting a compactor in their city or their location wherever they say it benefits them. I don't believe this board objects to it. But what I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're not willing to pay for the move and to pay to install three-phase power to a location in some cases that would be financially a burden to anyone to move power that far for a compactor site.
yeah, and I mean, I think what I'm trying to do is just make it fair across the boards. How's it fair to Tanglewood that we provide buildings to everyone else and that they get a push standalone button in the weather? You know, I think that's up to the HOA and the towns to do what they want. If they want to make it look pretty, that's up to them. We'll provide the we'll help with the licensing. We'll be the competent person on them, right? You will be, to help them with that. We'll pay for the licensing, and we'll continue doing the trash hauling and deal with all of the,
We would do the recycles, own the trailers, own the box container and the compactor at the site.
you got anything on that, Jim? Kind of what we're,
That's,
And we're still paying the utilities and the bills at the site as well. But if you'd like to hear from any of the parties involved, like I said, that in and of itself is the overall intent. Now, the specifics, you'd have to ask specific questions and we have to figure it out, because the overall intent is to give each one of the locations control of the site, because they already have control of the physical site and the personnel, where we don't. And this is not because we've had a problem at each site. It's just not. It is a rare occasion, but it's also, when it occurs, it eats manpower, staffing, and time. So it's not that we've had a problem at each one of these sites, because we have, some of these sites are more well-maintained than the county-run site.
so if anybody wants to come up and state where they're from, name and where they're from and their concern, we'll listen to what you have to say.
Russell Beth, Mayor of Blue Mound. Had the discussion with my city council at our last meeting. One of the concerns was the environmental issues that Sean talked about there earlier. Everybody was in agreement that we'd like to have KDHE inspection prior to signing the document, just to ensure from their viewpoint there's nothing there currently. While we do own the property, you guys own the compactor stuff and the licensing for it. Sean alluded to the state suggesting that we be listed first on the license and the county second. I would agree with that. Since it's your overall program, we're just hosting your operation, if you will. So I would like to see that as well, where we're both listed on the license, not just the city solely. In review of, I don't know what all Sean sent you from our conversation, there's some discrepancies between the county's operating plan and the Lake Region plan right now that I think needs rectified as well. The county's plan needs updated to match what the Lake Region plan says. One simple little thing in it was small animals. The county's plan says you can double bag small animals and place them in the compactor. Lake Region says thou shalt not put animals in the compactor sites. So I think we need to align those two documents as we move forward. So
you said you wanted to see if KDHE would come in and inspect the site.
yes,
So what if there's an issue within your boundaries where your compactor is? Who's in charge of that? Paying
well,
for it to get it up to, I mean, if there's some kind of,
that's,
well, let me ask you this, would it have been, when we get the inspection every year, has it been okayed once they write off on it every year that we get it?
I don't know. I don't get them. That's why we want,
see, and that's where my concern is, if there is an issue say there's an issue at your site, I'm not saying there is, but if there is, I would be prone to fight. It's not, I didn't have any control of your site I don't know how that spill happened. I mean, I don't think the county should pay for it. You guys deal with it every day. And I think that's what we're running into.
yeah.
So
Well,
you see what I'm
one,
saying?
one comment in regard to that, Danny. When there was some repairs made at the Blue Mountain site by county maintenance personnel, there was some oil spilled there. And you can't get underneath of the extruder on that compactor to get it cleaned up very well. KDHE, according to my operator, did comment. We still don't get the written reports, but did comment that needed cleaned up. Well, we didn't put it on the ground, so that's kind of where my concern lays, is if you're still doing the repairs on the equipment and spill a large amount of oil, then where's that liability gonna lay?
I mean, that's why we're here today.
Yeah, that's
You know,
why I'm
and-
here
and
today.
I don't think we're just trying to get in a fist fight over who does what, and you're making us do this, so you need to do this type thing. I mean, we're all here to help each other, and it's.
Right. I just
I
want,
want to make this better, so there's better, for other people that's going to set where I set and where you set, and everything's all lined out. I think that's where we're at. I don't foresee any huge issues. I hope that's not the case. I mean, and if there is, I would think that we would try to rectify.
I mean, we
don't you,
just,
Jim. I mean,
that's just where the council's at,
Right.
is we want to know where we're starting from and where we're going. It's not that we're objectionable to doing it, we just want a clean slate when we start.
Right.
And, it's not going to change anything monetarily for us because we're already paying the operator.
So, Sean, when we present an operating plan to the state, I mean, do they have to come out and inspect the sites? I mean, surely that's something that
There are site inspections, and we do have reports for those, and I can hold those reports for each site.
A yearly
As far as-
inspection or what?
I'm sorry.
Yearly inspection or?
I believe they are either yearly or periodical surprise inspections.
What about the small animal deal?
As far as the differences in the county policy and the lake region, I believe the lake region plan is the one that's turned in to the state. I don't believe the county policy is the one that's being used currently. I'll have to look at it. I believe the county policy was used prior to the lake region plan. I'll have to ask Al for that history, but I believe there may have been a county policy when we put the policy for that license together before we paid lake region to do the work that they did. And I would agree that there probably is confliction between those two policies.
And my concern,
Both of them, and, one of them needs to be both. There doesn't need to be a duplicate policy.
right.
There should never be.
and I think we run into issues like this just because we've operated this way for so long, and we've just kind of, it's not broken, so we haven't fixed it type of
Well,
thing.
and there again, like I said, I don't know what Sean sent you, but there's, if we're truly going under our own licensure to operate that, then I believe we will have to submit an operational plan for our sites individually because we're all going to operate a little bit different.
Right.
Which in turn, if we're following on your program, we have to meet yours, which also has to mirror Lake Region. So it'd be almost impossible for me to sit down and do that with the two documents I've been presented at this point because they vary so much in different areas, from hazardous waste to, or hazardous materials, small animals. Says that the county's plan says that you'll pick those containers up at a minimum every 7 days or when full. We're strictly operating when full, and I understand that. That's the only economical way you can do that. But the plan I was presented from the county says you'll pick them up at a minimum every 7 days. So we just need to get our paperwork lined up.
Right, and I understand where you're coming from, but, and right now we have Sean doing all of this and nobody helping, but, the more minds that can
You've
sit
got
down with
Sean.
him and help him, he's got a lot on his plate, so, and,
I listen to
can
your
agree.
meetings every week, and I get frustrated in my own mind thinking, how can you guys expect that much out of one man?
right, I agree.
And redundant questions from one week to the next over the same thing, and it's just,
Yep,
I,
that's why we're here today, we're trying to fix it,
Yep.
so we
but yeah, that's,
here to put a burden on anybody. We're here to make things better, and we'll all work together and lean on each other when we need to. So, and that's why we're coming up with this plan. I mean, I think no matter what we do, we can all sit here all day and tell the pros and cons of doing it or not doing it. But I don't think we're not here to just throw it at you and say, here you go, sink or swim. We're here to help. It's not our intentions for you guys to spend any money out of your pocket right now over this. And, more or less just kind of get it lined out so that we're all operating efficiently and not wait until it's broken.
but yeah, so I guess with your comment, Sean, of the state mentioned leaving the county on as the second person on the licensure. So is that the direction we're?
In their opinion, that we should be secondary because we are still, as we said, the overall operator of the program, not of the site, but the county-wide program, that we didn't escape.
We're basically responsible for the trash that we're.
Yeah, you're still collecting solid waste under your program, so, but if in fact that's the case, I think I'll back down from the KDHE inspection. I mean, as long as your name appears on the license as the County of Linn, then it's not so much of a liability issue from my small community standpoint. So,
Basically, we're accepting the trash that's been dumped there, so, you know, to me, we're responsible for what we're hauling off.
right,
And our intention is totally, you dictate your hours, you dictate your employee policies and cleanliness at your site.
right.
So when they say, hey, the site needs picked up or this.
That you're verifying what is actually put in there, they're to cover us
Right.
too.
Right. Yep. Understand that. And,
And those operators should know from you in your training
mhm.
that you've got a stake in it and where the manual's at and what goes in there. Because I can tell you, it varies from site to site about what goes in there.
Well, I can tell you this much until I talked to you about getting the Lake Region plan and the documents you sent me. I was oblivious to the fact that we needed to train anybody. You know, we just hire somebody that can push a button, you know, and help the old people throw their trash in the dumpster. So there's been a learning curve here and I'm getting ready to write a site plan, if you will, or an employee.
So really what will
Job
happen
description.
probably, Sean, is each city will, or HOA will come up with their own operating plan. They'll get with you. You guys will compare and contrast, and then we'll submit the plan, right?
We'll take Lake Region ours.
Right, Lake Region, yeah.
And we'll submit and get permits.
Well, we're basically gonna have to follow the Lake Region's plan though, right?
Yes.
And that's the one that
Yes,
we're gonna have to
we
follow.
will.
Yeah, you can
And
add
the
to, but
question-
not take away.
What?
You can add to the Lake Region plan, but you cannot take away from it.
cannot.
Make it more stringent, but not less
Yeah,
stringent.
you
So,
can't be less stringent than what the Lake Region says.
yeah, but in my opinion, standing here having this conversation, I don't know that the communities or HOAs would have to particularly write a site operating plan as long as you guys are still on the licensure for that site. But we need to develop an employee guideline, if you will, job description that says, this is what you will do, this is what you won't do.
And your employee signs off that they will
Yeah.
follow the Lake Region and Linn County's plan.
Yep.
Well, and even the HOAs, I mean, like, Tanglewood, where they've got marked everywhere. They've got video, they've done due diligence. Are you gonna stop somebody from rolling up?
Professional background, gotta have a key to.
Yeah, are you gonna stop somebody from rolling up there and doing what they're gonna do in the middle of the night? No,
Mm.
but they've got competent evidence to hold people accountable for. And their site does qualify because it is restricted access because of the gate around. So as long as in their HOA policies, the people inside that have signed up to be members of that HOA.
We'll know where the dumpster come from. I mean, if we run into a problem when we're unloading it, that we'll know where it came from, so we'll have to go back to wherever it's at if there is an issue.
And I believe we've had issues.
No, I'm not saying there is, but if there is, I
You know,
mean,
years ago, I think, you used to get a lot of contractors would save their costs, work up in the cities, come down and they just fill these
So we used to have the open contact or the open
things.
bid
On the top, you know.
and stuff, the whole house would be thrown in there.
Yeah, so I think things have improved quite a bit. And I think you're right. I think we do a little bit of paperwork, we do a little bit of cooperation in between, and the program itself has already improved just by us talking. Because I can tell you, I've driven by their site, they've taken a large interest in what goes on there and knowledge about, hey, after reading it.
I got a council member that built a house or put a house in just 100 yards from it, so he's kind of keeping an eye on it.
So everything is improving in the program even before this has been in.
But yeah, from this conversation, it'll be, of course, the first of the month before we have another council meeting to vote anything, but unless something changes between now and then, I feel relatively confident that the council will probably agree to the agreement, so.
Yeah, like I said, we're not trying to put any more on you than you can handle or cause you guys to rearrange your budget to spend more money. That's not it. We're just trying to get it lined out a little bit so there's accountability.
We just didn't want to inherit
I
an
don't-
environmental problem that pre-existed is where we were at is,
Right.
you know, I've dealt with those people enough through my career that it's not fun, so, and not cheap.
Right.
Anyway, appreciate you listening to the grumbles from Blue Mountain.
No, thank you, Russell. I know, did anybody else want to talk? You want to say anything, Tanglewood?
I think it was good. I think, you answered a lot. And I think it sounds like you're gonna help us, whatever. we
Yeah, we're-
deal with.
yeah.
And like I say, this is new to us, but this has just come to mind.
Oh, and it will be new to us when we work with the state, it'll be new to the state, that we get these first permits. I'm not under the anticipation that there's not gonna be a little rubbing and racing to get these permits put through, because they haven't done this before this way. It's their recommendation. We'll get it done, we'll work together to get it done, but once we get it done, that template followed, it's just a renewal each year.
Let me just make,
First one's gonna be the worst one.
Yeah, because, last one, if one of the official. One question I do have, and you kind of brought it up, but I just want to verify, say there is a pre-existing condition, we are going to have everything inspected before we take over the license. Say there's a spill that's been there would that be our responsibility right now?
I'll show you the reports from the previous year and what you were responsible for.
Okay.
And then when that licensing comes up, the inspection for that year, I can give you the 2 years, what was there before, and what was there when you took over.
Okay.
And obviously, if it was there before, it's very well and easily argued, it's our responsibility.
Okay.
yeah, once you guys you get your license, you're going to get okayed from the day that the license comes in your name, and anything before that is going to be,
And obviously, we still own the machine that sits on your site, and you go in and wrench it and spray 15 gallons of hydraulic oil all over your ground.
Coming after you.
We're cleaning it up. Okay? If it's our machine and we got it, we'll take care of it.
something I just think we need to make clear. It is that the hydraulic equipment and stuff, it's ours, the building's going to be theirs. Is that?
Yeah. All the whatever you want to call it, and the containers is all us.
Okay.
And
But the building,
We don't own it.
we actually,
Originally, the Lakes purchased theirs.
so yeah.
I thought the HOAs owned them, didn't they?
Yes, originally the Lakes purchased theirs, and you actually prepare yours through contracts with someone. The cities, we actually send people out to repair it, but the HOAs, you have contractors come in and prepare it.
Okay. Is that going to throw a wrench in anything with what we're doing?
So they'll continue to take care of it. We'll just haul the trash off.
So what about the bills and electricity and stuff at each site? I know that for years we paid a phone bill there that we didn't really use. I think that was caught here last year maybe. They're taking responsibility for their bills?
In the agreement, I think none of that changed.
Sure, electricity stayed in the county.
Utilities did not change in the agreement. And if we had specific concerns about those at a later date, we'd have to address them, but no, that is not addressed here.
Okay.
And I don't know that we should address that at this point.
Okay.
I think baby steps in changing this is, if we wanted to address that 3 to 5 years down the road, as this plan worked and we got our feet underneath us, then I'd say address it then.
Yep. We'll move forward with the contracts, get everybody signed and go at it.
Sounds good.
Thank you guys for
Appreciate it.
showing up and taking
Yeah,
this.
the only other thing, you bring up electricity and stuff like that. Tanglewood, we've been paying for their own electricity. And our own electricity, we're getting along with this.
You guys pay for everything but the actual removal
Removal
of the boxes and stuff, and the repairs of the boxes.
Wait, hey, Chris, I think
Once your boxes are.
They just put out there though, I mean, it's basically, they've got that there, but I can't use it. You know, at an HOA, and I can use the ones in other cities. You know, so, I mean, to me, the way I look at that is, it's a benefit to the people that's,
been able to shut the gate and not allow anybody else to use it.
Well, it sounds like we could have gotten all that. Like, if we could have been paying for.
well, the way I see that is, for you guys is, you guys have that, you chose to have it in your HOA. I can't use it, you know, but if I choose to take my trash to Pleasanton or Blue Mound, I can still use it because it's county owned. With you guys in your HOAs, you chose to have it in there. So I know, but I'm just, that's my side of it. So,
I'm good. I'm glad that it was addressed though, because
Yeah.
it could have came up. So
it's good that we talk about it.
Yeah, that's, cause like I say, that's what I didn't know, yeah, cause you were talking, oh, you got the electricity, but yeah, we are, it is in a private location. And I see that point.
Yeah, it'd be like, you know, if the compactor in Sugar Valley went down, everybody would show up to Mount City and they would get service. Mount City goes down. you can't go-
We're not supposed to go in there. Right.
But same with Tanglewood and Lake Scene, if Tanglewood would get everybody to go to Lake Scene, but they couldn't do it, they reversed. Yeah. We'd actually pull in roll-offs, come up with a big plan, so,
Right. Thank you, Jim.
thanks, Dad.
well, thank you guys for coming in and, you know, working with us. We're, like I said, we're not here to put a burden on anything you guys as cities or HOAs are doing. We're here to just make sure we're all on the same page. So, you know, we switch chairs all the time, just like you guys do. And I think it's important that everybody's on the same page and makes things easier. So,
Keep track of your birthdays.
yeah, I need that before I'm done. I still ain't got yours. All right. I don't think we have anything else on the schedule. And Jim, you got anything?
I don't have anything.
David?
I'm good.
All right. Well, with that, I will make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You guys still got the claims registered?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I guess we'll talk about that next week when Jason's back.